Hi, Dr. Fayetta. Is there someone to schedule me as the captioner?
Nothing?
I don't see anything yet.
Sorry, working on it. All right, here we go.
Okay, there it is.
I'm learning every day, just like the students.
We all.
Thank you, Jen O'Neill. All right, folks, good evening. Joe Bida, Superintendent of Norton Public Schools. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy belated Hanukkah. We have 160 folks on. If you have questions, please place them into the Q&A or into the chat, and we'll eventually, what we do is we go through it. Let me give you some general information so that you have it instead of other forms of social media. Our current COVID cases as of today, which are entered every day onto the dashboard, includes 8 students positive, 0 staff, 5 staff now quarantined, 68 students quarantined, for a total involvement in COVID positive and quarantine isolation of 81, up 5, I believe, from yesterday total. We had a new case at the high school and 2 cases at the middle school, at the Hay School. Those are individual impact situations. If you haven't gone to our dashboard, it's on www.norton.k12.ma.us. And as you scroll down on the opening page, there's a information right there of COVID. It goes across, and you just hit the first icon there, if you will, the first notice, and it'll take you right to the dashboard and other information as well. Second part is we are currently reviewing data that's come in from our remote learning on Friday. That was a questionnaire that we said we would release, and we did, and we've kept it open and are closing it, and now reviewing the data for information and to take a look at what we see for overall impact by families. Thoughts and opinions, I'm sure, are going to be in there. We're going to collate that, and we will be sharing that both with our staff and externally. We'll release the results of it to you as well. I'd expect that sometime probably next week or before we get back anyways, is my hope. The next issue that I have is many of you are going to probably ask the question about what about January 4th? As of today, right now, speaking to you with the information that I have, we are scheduled to continue in hybrid on the 4th of January, which would mean a remote Monday followed by cohort 1 and cohort 2, just like we've been doing. I suggest that's subject to change, and I'm going to continue to say, be prepared to go remote every and any day of the week. Why? A, because we are sending full classrooms home in the middle of the day, and or staff in the middle of the day, an hour into the day, or with an hour left in the day. I've done all 3 of them in covered classes as the superintendent in order to get the teachers out, to get the students out, and to get everybody as safe as possible. So unfortunately, I cannot provide you 3 days, 4 days, or a week's notice, or even 24 hours notice. It can happen literally within that day based upon the cohort model that we are required to utilize with contact tracing. But right now, our remote learning potential is based on what takes place. We just came out of what I would agree with many above me, an increase in positive cases, probably, if not surely, all related to Thanksgiving. it's Christmas. I'm 51 years old. I'm about to spend my first Christmas Eve without my parents. I'm doing the same thing with my in-laws on Christmas Day. We're making legit decisions based on what's in the best interest of our family. I'm sure you'll be doing the same. To be quite honest, it's pretty sad, but we'll find other ways to celebrate later as much as we can and can keep ourselves safe. When we went to remote learning last Friday, it's important for folks to realize that I will continue to provide you what I've said since day one. I am not concerned about the number of students that have to go out causing a closure, although that could happen. It is more than likely always going to be the adults, which means that then I have three choices. I can close the school completely and go and just make it up later, call it, if you will, an emergency day. We can go remote, which we're planned to do, or which also provides you a highly qualified teacher in front of your child 99% of the time, or we can open and babysit. I'm not going to open and babysit because that means I'm just putting people in front of substitutes, and that just can't happen. That's the real world of teaching and learning when you have so many people out. So I made the executive decision with support from everybody around us to make sure that we went in the direction that we thought was best for kids. We stand by the decision on the traditional snow day. I think that people have to recognize, I've been told that I'm very friendly with the staff. I'm not friendly with the staff, but I do believe in being realistic with my staff. And by that, I mean, they have to plow out their driveways. They have to take care of their own kids. And I thought, based upon what I was seeing and hearing in the buildings, and I'm pretty much out there as much as I can be, that between students and families and the staff, that a traditional snow day was the right call. Some have criticized me for, it's another day away. You're absolutely correct. But I also had to make sure that I was putting in place what I thought was in the best interest of all parties. One of the biggest issues that we have with snow days and with storms is electrical power. And I have to be able, and I have direct contact not only to the highway department, the police department, the fire department, as well as the electric companies and even internet we have connections with. And that's how we come to some of our decisions as we go forward. That's how we base it on the regular snow day as well, besides just the safety of getting to school. As we come out of the holiday break and the concern that we have that there will be an increase, then we will be taking a look at how to soften those issues in the classroom right away. So next week, I will be having some discussions, not only with area superintendents and decision makers, but also taking a look at what the data is showing us. And so I would expect that by middle of late next week, we'll start talking about January 4th. And again, it's unfortunate, but we all have to prepare as families for going remote at any point, because your child could walk in through the door, become a contact, and have to go home that same day. That's already happened 4 different times this year with full classrooms at elementary, middle, and high school level. There are changes coming to the hybrid model. The State Department of Education, Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, has released through the Board of Education a formal vote 7-4 to now have what we would call seat time. It means during hybrid, a minimum of 35 hours of live contact time, including, if you will, utilizing systems like this. And then remote is 40 hours. That's over a 2-week period, 35 over 2 weeks, 40 hours. And a check-in every day must take place, and it can't be office hours and optional. It has to be required. So there'll be some changes coming to that, and those take effect January 19th. So we have a lot of work to do in order to make those changes and negotiate those changes with the Norton Teachers Association. If there's a question already coming in about students that are part of our high-risk student populations that are already coming in, for those students already coming in a full remote that's going, let's say, for 2 weeks, that they in fact will report. The only way that we would be shutting those down completely for a period of time would be through the governor's orders, or because we don't have the staffing ourselves. So those situations will take place. We will, once again, as we said before, we will look at the next tier of students, if you will, to look at. I'm really taking a look at students from all backgrounds that are failing or not participating. There will actually be a letter going out from my office at the beginning of the year, talking about truancy. Students have to participate. We have to get them to participate, to be active. And that sometimes can be very difficult for both educators and families, but that's part of our plan. So we'll continue to move in that direction. There is not a way for a substitute to pick up where they left off as a question. And the very reason is they're not potentially not a highly qualified person who has an English degree at the high school, for example, or middle school, or an elementary background in the literacy that we're doing. The students that are, for example, our literacy program is a trained program our teachers have had to go through. So you can't just provide the assignment. I am not going to get, and I feel strongly about this, we're already educating less this year, and to bring students in a situation where they're not going to get a highly qualified teacher, to me, is just a day where I'm literally bringing the children in and providing them lunch in a safe place. And I don't think that that's my role as it pertains to what's taking place. They can complete assignments. That's true. That's one part of the questions here. But the fact is that those assignments shouldn't necessarily count as a day because they're not in front of a highly qualified teacher, while we're having even less days of school than before. If Norton goes full remote, will the students in DLA remain? So that is a really good question. DLA is the Digital Learning Academy Parent Choice Full Remote since September. So we will be making those changes based on the length of time that we are out. So the first two times or so, or 2 to 4 weeks, we probably would not, because there's a complete change in 6 to 12 with attention to 9 to 12 courses that they're taking online that we don't offer, and vice versa. So we're going to be looking at that. The changes that we would probably make quicker would be at the elementary level. I'm hoping this may be addressed, but should schools go remote, would the remote learning day be 7 hours standard school day, or would you consider half days, especially for the young ones? Currently, we are required to provide 35 hours of instruction over 40 hours of instruction over 2 weeks is the new requirement effective January 19th and going forward. And so when we look at the young kids, pre-K and K, preschool, Little Lancers preschool, and our kindergarten program are not part of those changes. It's grades 1 through 12 only. So the suggestion is, would we have some half days? What we're actually going to try to do is have that contact of time be not 7 hours or 6.5 hours in front of a computer, but have both the synchronous and asynchronous taking place. So direct instruction for 20 minutes, then let the students go off and complete assignments, some behind a computer, some of them not behind a computer. We're really taking a look at some of the project-based learning and exercises that allow for students to get up and move and not just be behind the computer. Being in front of an iPad is brutal, but to also address that question, we completely agree with you, but the number of parents that are saying that it needs to be more time behind the computer is also coming in on a regular basis. It's seen in our surveys, it's seen in my Let's Talk, it's seen in my email, and it's seen in the phone call. So this is a balance where I think I've told the story once before, a middle school situation, 2 students, 2 different families, both students, general education students, 1 parent, it's not enough work, 1 parent, you're killing my kid, it's too much work. This is what happens when children come to school in a generalized education situation, either because they're included in as an IEP, or they're just general ed students, or they're AP students. They have different functions, if you will, that prioritize that. And now we see it more than ever because public education is very public. You as a parent are being asked to do something that is not what you do as a parent, which is to, quote, get your kid motivated, get your child motivated to learn. Believe me, I know, I have one, and they're a freshman in high school, and that still at times can be challenging for students. We all have it here in central office. A number of my staff here has, and throughout the district, have children in other school systems that are at elementary level. So we're trying to balance that area. So will we consider half days? Yes, they will be strategically placed throughout time if I can meet the minimum hours and the minimum total hours for the year, 890 secondary, 850 elementary. So these are the bureaucratic things that I have to sign off on. I'm not a fan of it, but it's unfortunately what I have to do and ethically what I'm required to do. I hope that addressed some of your questions. The whole district went remote this past Friday due to staffing shortages. Why the whole district, not just the classrooms where teachers were absent? Equity, that's what it came down to. It came down to sure equity. I had one building that had no custodians. I had literally the director of facilities and a retiree that we pulled out of retirement come out and help us clean the building. We had no night custodians, no day custodians, as one example. So that affects an entire building. I had another school, another building where I could have the students learn their science classes within the science program, but not if they had come to school. So these are the typical changes that we have to make. We always look at classrooms. We've shut down 4, 5, 6. We've shut down 7 classrooms this year already. Probably, maybe it wasn't one of, didn't impact you directly, but we've done that. We have not done the school, and we've done the remote learning once as a district. So we will continue to keep those as options all along. Be mindful that when we count these staff situations, that is pre-opening the school the next day and somebody calling in sick. In other words, this was solely related to the number of people who were on quarantine or positive, and didn't include anyone who could get up that morning and have a sick child or themselves be sick and calling in sick, which could be anywhere from 1 person to as many as 10, 15 staff. So that's the reason why we made that decision. And we already had 3 classrooms just on that day that we had no coverage for on Wednesday that we knew about for Friday. The new requirements in effect for the 19th, does that apply to the DLA students as well? It does not apply. It is solely based on the students that are in school based upon the choice provided as the predominant choice. The predominant choice of the district is hybrid. A parental choice was made to go to the DLA decision. The new changes coming in the hybrid model mid-January, does this mean we should expect the kids to be in school more time now? I'm not sure where the question is coming from in terms of more time now. What the state did is approved all of our plans back in August, every single plan. The plan was based on hours for the year, synchronous and asynchronous time. They have now gone back and said that there are districts where we need to see more time. So for example, the remote days where students are with video, the rule now is that they must see a teacher live via this type of a platform daily. So students that are home on cohort 1, when they're home, have to see a teacher at some point. And then there's minutes allocated that we have to put into play for that. So I guess the answer to your question is yes. And if we go full remote, will there still, we will still have days that our children are meeting just with their cohort and the teachers. Zoom with 20 students is chaotic. Keeping a smaller group gives more opportunity. Yes, you're absolutely right. Zooming and opportunity and lower class sizes is true. Unfortunately, I also have to make sure that I am providing all kinds of services and delivery models around OT, PT, speech, and special education services as well. So that's one of the reasons why everybody comes together in the service delivery model, also reading, specialized reading, et cetera, et cetera. So it's all about the delivery of the services within that particular day and then shifting it. We would have to pull students out of so many of their core classrooms, which is a philosophy that we try to not do, pull students out of their reading class in order to get occupational therapy or so on and so forth. So that's the reason for those situations to take place. Now, that does not stop the classroom situation from being, there's 20 kids in the classroom, the teacher does instruction for 10 minutes and then breaks them up into 3 groups and then goes into those group situations as well. And those will be some of the things we'll be asking our staff to continue to do more of. Why do DLA students who are too young to read why don't DLA students who are too young to read have direct instruction? So this comes down to the decisions that were made early on about what DLA looks like from the state versus hybrid. And there was a very big push that at minimum, we should be in hybrid. People should be in school a minimum X number of hours. And then the politics of everything said, no, we have too many parents who want choice and selection. There is no staffing for those DLA situations except the ones that you have right now. And to be quite honest, a lot of districts didn't even go with their own staffing like we did. I hired my own employees. We hired 18 different people to cover 23 staff members on FMLA. in August and into September. And we've been lucky. Some of them have come, some of those folks are potentially are being utilized in the DLA. But you're absolutely right. There's going to be significant issues with reading and direct instruction, because that's not part of the DLA instruction as part of the Flora virtual program. As I'm sure you're pretty aware, it doesn't make me any happier to say that to you, but those are some of the situations. We'd be happy to talk to you about struggling students and how to get them back into school from the DLA as well. One of the things that I think is really important is trying to establish going from folks feeling like they have to be in DLA and shifting that into the hybrid or shifting that into the remote. So shifting to the remote is in certain age groups significantly easier than in other age groups. An example, in grades 6 to 12, you take classes. In kindergarten through grade 5, you're developing skills within numeracy, literacy, science, social studies, and then all of the different selective areas of arts and music that we think is really important to kids. So those changes can happen in a number of different ways. In K to 5, it's really taking a look at saying, okay, you're ready to come back? Great, let's do a transition and move you into this class. In 6 to 12, it's what class were you taking in Edgenuity that's aligned? So English 6 and English 6 are going to align. But if they're taking certain electives that we don't have, specifically this is a high school issue, then we have to come to a good stopgap time so we can count those as credits, because kids at the secondary level are creating credits for their transcript, which then are reviewed and utilized as part of the selection process going forward as they move on to and apply to colleges. Thank you for the compliments as well. Thanking us educators that are working out of the districts. Thank you for all your that you do and the wonderful job. Thank you for making the difficult decisions. We know that you and your staff and the school community have the best interest of the kids in mind. Thank you for that. Thought the traditional snow was a great call. Help fill the social emotional bucket. We know that athletics and clubs do the same thing. Will there be any consideration for middle school sports for the winter season? Great question. I'm glad you asked it. Right now, the middle school has no competitors in terms of a league. The entire league is shut down. I think it's the Massasoit League. I think it's what it's called. And so there is no competition. I will be looking potentially into the springtime as things get hopefully better at bringing back intramurals in all sports. So we may not, if we don't have those sports, I'm hoping to be able to do, if it's safe and we can find staffing to support this, come back and do intramurals in the springtime is my hope. Educators in another community and think we're doing a great job. Thank you for that. It's always nice to hear from the educators because I know they get a lot of different viewpoints. Will parent-teacher meetings resume in the near future? We're hoping that we continue to have improved areas of communication. We had some really good successes at the elementary school, according to feedback from both parents and teachers. We're hoping to be able to create something more consistent for the secondary level. But please reach out to your child's teacher at any time. It does not have to be a conference for you to have a conversation because you have concerns. If you have concerns, it could be that the teacher has concerns and hasn't reached out. I wish they would, and I know that they do a lot. But do not wait. Send that email and say, I'd like to talk to you about my child. I'm worried about this. That's not necessarily a parent conference. It's more of a communication that takes place between the parent and the teacher. And there's a lot of that going on already. Most of it via email, which can be done easier. Some of it being done via phone call from the workplace by the teachers. Have we received any information on vaccines and for teachers and staff? We have not received any information except what's in the news. However, Norton Public Schools has put itself out there as a major site for the town, specifics to be provided by the Board of Health, protocols to be provided by the Board of Health. But right now, teachers are looking to be in phase 2. Educators are in phase 2, along with folks over, I believe it's 65, don't quote me on that, but I know educators are phase 2, which would be February. They're looking at the week after February vacation, and those would be locally done. The Board of Health is making a plan. The school system is part of that plan. It may require that I actually close at some point, depending on what they happen, which would be not a great thing, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure it happens. Those clinics, by the way, are drive-by clinics. They're not come into a building type of vaccinations. Now, the compliment about being incredibly organized and professional. As a nurse, I greatly appreciate the focus of safety. Yeah, we have, thank you for saying that. We have 6 full-time nurses. They're my health and safety team, along with Vinnie Searcy, our director of people personnel and SEL. We meet regularly. They are fantastic. I just sent them out a note today. They're on top of it. We've created so much more paperwork for them, which is unfortunate, but with a 5 days, 10 day, or 8 days, 10 days, 14-day choices to come back and don't come back and all that, we want to make sure that we're safe. So thank you for that. I am curious if there are any ability to have an option to do a remote day in place of an in-person day for kids or families that may have someone feeling questionably ill. This is one of the areas we're trying to work on. It is an area of concern, is like when somebody's home sick, then what happens? That'll be, my kid has to stay home just to protect everybody, but they're not sick. And how do I deal with that? And could they be able to just, if you will, stream in? Those are all questions we're going to try to continue to work on and address and find ways to make sure that the student doesn't fall behind a day because of what I would call good parenting and safety. Live teacher time is considered to be exactly what I'm doing with you and the students. So if you're there and I'm here, this is live time. It's not necessarily live in the classroom where they're in front of me in a desk. This is live. We're together. So that's the definition of live time. They will not force us to go full-time remote. The regulations would not force us to have to do that. Thanks for all you're doing. I'm concerned about the ongoing stress, anxiety, and strain on teachers and students, how that impacts learning and mental health, specifically trying to balance hybrid learning, academic goals during the pandemic. Any questions, suggestions, or plans to address overall mental health? Yeah, our social emotional district-wide group has been meeting. We just put out some information to teachers this week. Stress and trauma are, if there's 400 people in the room, there's probably 400 different ways of dealing with it. And that's what I'm seeing. And I have 5 different buildings, and I've decided that my approach with the 5 buildings has to be slightly different. With one team, for example, I may be able to just be very blunt, and it's just taken for what it is. With another team, I have to be, if you will, more approachable in my approach to them when it's talking about something that's significant. So I think that's what we're seeing. There's a big push to say that around all of us to try to find those, if you will, I call them happy moments, but it kind of sounds like I'm belittling the point of social emotional learning. I'm not. We need to spend some time on what I would call teachable moments every day in our school as a way to connect to kids. I'm not sure that this school year is anything than more about trying to make connections with kids on a daily basis. But the problem also is that I have many students that works for, and I have other students who are so driven by academics, so worried about their transcript, so worried that they're not going to get the AP score that they need, so worried, et cetera. And that's one of the groups that we're trying to kind of fixate ourselves on, is how do we get to students that we typically haven't seen struggling, at the same time, really shore up the dam with those students that are struggling. We're currently working with a couple of different institutions. One, I'm currently discussing with William James College, being an institution for them for placement of interns that are counselors and in the human services aspects of it, psychologists, people that are training to be psychologists, people that are training to be adjustment counselors and counselors, as a way to provide better connections for students. I just spoke earlier today with Vinnie Searcy, our Director of Pupil Personnel Services and SEL, about trying to get to the home of certain kids and getting them to school, and what's the best way for us to do that, and the safest way, to be quite honest, for all of us involved. And then lastly, how do we pinpoint within our curriculum that SEL? It's not a course. It's about the dynamics of instruction, motivation, and finding ways to secure students getting involved. One of the things that's very concerning to me right now is the number of decisions that are being made around students always having their screen blacked out. In other words, they're listening to you, but this is all right. So I'm concerned about some of this. I want to see more direct checking in like this between adults and students in small group situations. So those are going to be some of the best practices around the SEL component that we hope to be able to move forward with in order to help with mental health issues. Any consideration for other learning opportunities, such as educating students on how to research different ways to take notes to best? Yes, so we're looking at the whole concept of teaching the whole child. It's a great question. I'm glad you brought it up. There's a number of different things that I internally have been taking a look at as best practices: employability skills, financial training, if you will. You mentioned note taking. All of those things I think are all life learning skills that I would like to see us implementing as part of the teachable moments that I was talking about earlier. So I think you'll see some thoughts about that. I'm actually going to write that down because I had written it down earlier to make sure that we bring out to families. Great question on the staying home to protect others, and how can we try to, when people are protecting others, how can we make sure that we're giving something to them? And that's an area that we definitely have to find ways to support. Any consideration on going remote for the first few weeks of January? Yes, it is a consideration. The decision has yet to be made. JCS teachers rock. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for the compliment. I'm very, very lucky to be surrounded by the people I'm surrounded by. Some of them I've been here for years before I was here. Some of them we've brought on board, and it's been a total team effort. So let's go back to sports. Sports is we have high school sports and middle school sports. There is no middle school league. The Massasoit League has chosen not to participate in the middle school level. So that is the reason why I suggested earlier that we will be looking at extracurricular activities that are not as competitive later on this year. Why are not students able to email their teachers? It's a new question for me, so I will make sure this is specifically related to grade 5. Okay, so I know Jen O'Neill's on the call too, so we'll write down email with teachers seems to be an issue. I'll take down your name as well, so that way I can look into it further. Thank you for that. We'll get back to you with that. Let me see, go back here. 7-hour question. Address that. Sorry, was back and forth. Get 2 messages from the assistant superintendent. Jen O'Neill suggests for the question about 5th grader, I believe they are able to, only can't email out of the Norton network. So in other words, you got to get into the system first is the answer, but I'll look further to that tomorrow as well, and we'll get back to you. Once staff are vaccinated, hopefully before year's end, is there an expectation that we will move to full in-person? That's a great question. You know what? It's a question we've been asking in terms of vaccinations right now for my personnel are not required by any statute or law. Right now, they're not even part of anyone under the age of 16 is the recommendation. So I'll have to get back on you with specifics, but that has not, that's a question that we need to try to work out because I can't control vaccinations. I guess I could say that if most of our staff is vaccinated, then I'm coming back. I'd probably be using the science to make that determination as well. Another compliment, thank you so much. New regs coming out, I think I addressed that one. We will not go full remote because of the new regs. The full remote is a decision based on local issues. Thanks for what you're doing. I'm concerned about the ongoing stress. We addressed a little bit of that. That's a really difficult one. Any consideration after the January going remote? Yes, I said earlier. And I think I've gotten through. Thank you for the compliments. Compliments go a long way. And, we appreciate it very much. Take the time to email that teacher, that building level administrator. They need to hear the positives from you. They have a tendency to hear some of the negatives. They need to hear the positives. I've been trying to spend time saying positives, but I'm also the boss. So sometimes that's just, it is what it is. But if they hear from you, you're the client, if you will, they're going to love hearing from you. So take that time to email the teacher, the building principal, the administrator, the secretary. If you see the custodian, let them know that you really think they're trying to do a great job every day, and that none of this is perfect, but it's never perfect. But we're trying to do the right things here in Norton. We will be coming out after the first of the year, depending on the numbers. Once we get some, traction, we're going to try to see if we can get some of our volunteers to be part of our system. Those will be very fixed dates, very fixed times, because we don't want people revolving all over the place. But yes, things like volunteers. We also have a new program from the state for seniors meaning high school seniors in good standing. But if you know a retired that wants to work, please send them our way. Seniors in high school in good academic standing, we may partake in a program that allows for them to actually become part of working in a school as a substitute, lunch monitor, tutoring, providing services, et cetera, to students. Again, I think that the email question about my child can't email, I think that you have to get into the Norton system first, but we'll put out a message tomorrow on how to do that best, because it seems like it's a question that's come out. Huge shout out to the entire staff at the LGN. Been a great year from the staff out there every morning greeting the kids. Yes, it's always great to see them out there. Vaccinations, I think I've hit all of those questions. Seeing Buddy the Elf at the LGN this morning made the kids laugh. Yes, that is Joe Trotman, our head custodian at the LGN, who was an elf, all dressed. I was there this morning at drop-off, and just fantastic. Again, when I say educators, I've been brought up to that mean that you don't need to have a doctor's degree like I do, or have a master's degree, or it's all about the right education. I've always said, and I'm going to continue to say that everybody that's in that building is helping to educate your children. So again, if you see them, if you can email them, please do. Okay, so next item for us briefly to talk about is timelines. So I'm going to do what I hope you're going to do, what I hope your child's going to do, what I hope everybody's going to do, especially my staff. Tomorrow afternoon, unless there's an emergency, which please, it is 2020, we're going offline. We're going offline. We're making this about family and friends and being safe and making good decisions. And I will not be online until the earliest next Monday. I always say that, and then I end up tweeting something out or showing something or doing something. But unless there's an emergency, I want to try to get through the next few days with our loved ones, you with your loved ones, and then come back to you all and discuss all of this further. And hopefully there won't be major changes. I believe that the hybrid model continues to be for us the best model. I continue to believe we're doing really good things with the DLA model, and I'm not criticizing at all, so please don't take it this way. It's a different model, it's a different approach. People did it for different reasons. I fully support it and want to engage, I think, more in it is one of the things we need to do as a district. And then lastly, as we look to January and we look to our numbers and what they're showing, please be prepared daily for a situation. I can't stress enough. Champions will continue to be opened even during remote for us. So keep that in mind. I'm sorry I can't just give it to you for free, but it is what it is. And that includes remote for when our staff is remote, that will happen as well. All right, so let me finish with happy holidays to you and yours and your loved ones. May it be a fruitful one. Please be safe. As I said earlier, I'm spending my first Christmas Eve without my parents that are still with me, and my in-laws tomorrow are on Christmas Day. It's hard, but it's the right decision for us to do. I hope you decide to do the same. Keeping the numbers low keeps us open, allows for us to be creative and move forward. Be well, take care, and see you in 2021. Thanks, Gabe and company. Thank you, Ms. Z, as well. Appreciate you all. Lauren, thank you. Bye, Ms. Z. Thank you.